Afternoon, thank you very much. Thank you, Marius. To everybody, to the organisers of SustainNext, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here to you this afternoon. It's been a very interesting morning with a lot of very diverse ideas brought forward and people doing very innovative and interesting things. And hopefully I'll tell you a little bit about some of the things we're doing within the Dublin Airport Authority in the same vein. First of all, for those of you, not everyone here is Irish, so just to tell you a little bit about ourselves, we as the Dublin Airport Authority, we're 100% state-owned, so a full semi-state company, but with a commercial mandate. So we don't get any funds directly from the government, and in fact we've been a net contributor to the Exchequer over a very extended period. We run Dublin, Cork and Shannon airports, and our mandate is to manage, operate and develop the airports. We also have substantial international operations. Indeed, we would have been a semi-state with a huge of significant scale in terms of international duty-free operations, 5th largest in the world at one stage, which is quite unusual for a semi-state organisation. And as the airport operator, we are a key engine of growth for the Irish economy. Going back to such documentation as the Lisbon Treaty, one of the key drivers of economic growth is the proximity to good transport nodes, and an airport is obviously a very significant element in that. So critical to returning to economic well-being for Ireland as a country, and indeed any area, is that you have good access to transport. So a healthy airport and healthy airport operations are a really critical element in that. Now, if we go back to Dublin Airport, and although it was set up long before the 1970s, in the 1970s, when the airport throughput was around 2 million passengers per annum, the planners at the airport conceived of a day, sometime in the future, when we might need a second runway, a parallel runway, which meant that they were thinking in terms of 30, 40, 50 million passengers per annum. That was really quite incredible long-term planning from the perspective of the people living in the Ireland of the 1970s, and a lot of the people in the audience here are too young to remember the 1970s, but I can tell you it wasn't necessarily, a time when we were very confident about a lot of the developments that have happened in the interim. And at that time, not only did they consider those plans, they made those plans and they safeguarded the zones. They safeguarded a lot of the area and the lands which would permit that sort of development to happen in a way which would not have the kind of negative impact on the communities around the airport that has happened in many other cities and at many other airports. So there was really, really good long-term planning decisions made at that stage. And in particular, one of the cleverest things that was done, I think, was that the runway which was built first was the one which was closest to the city. So it sort of almost provided a sort of a barrier beyond which there was a lot more greenery and far less development for a long period of time. And that legacy stayed up to very, very recent years, and has meant that even still, in its current phase and at its current level, there is a huge amount of land around the airport which doesn't have to be purchased for further airport development, but where there is an enormous amount of good, well-structured interaction with our neighbours. And thankfully, I'm very happy to say that by and large we don't have the kind of difficulties that many other airports do. This is a high standard of long-term planning, and as the current group of airport managers, we're now faced with the challenge of what do we do now as airport managers today to try to have the same positive impact on the growth of the airport and the impact on our neighbours, which will be similar to that for generations ahead. And I suppose the simple fact we have to consider is that an airport is not like a factory producing one set of goods. It's really a huge range of industrial units all located in the same area. It's more like a small town in many respects than a single type of business, because we have shops and we have maintenance and we have airlines, we have handlers and we have people doing a whole range of different things on the same site. And all of these have slightly different drivers and even slightly different economic situations to deal with. And it obviously isn't possible then when you're starting with an airport to say, oh, well, we'll just start again. We're a business that has a lot of infrastructure in place, a lot of people employed, you know, so up to 18,000 people employed at the airport in total. So hugely significant in terms of the economic contribution to the locality and indeed to the country. So obviously we can't just throw everything out. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That would be too risky, and of course it would be too expensive, and there isn't the funding available to do that. So in terms of looking as to how we might move to a sustainable model in the sense of the kind of discussions that have been held here this morning, what we have to look at is a sort of a stepwise development, a pragmatic and appropriate shift towards different models of doing business. And it's in this context that we have developed our sustainability programme. Now, in terms of the sustainability vision, our corporate vision is that we would deliver a quality airport travel experience to the best international standards. And from a sustainability perspective, we have 3 additional elements in that. We obviously want to promote economic growth because that is good for our customers, that's good for our locality, that's good for our business. We want to make a positive contribution to the community in which we operate, and we do that through a whole range of programmes which unfortunately I don't have time to tell you about today. And we are very focused on trying to operate in harmony with our environment and with our neighbours, and that is something we take very seriously. And when we look at our sustainability programme, we have identified a whole range of dimensions that we need to consider and that we are actively looking at, from community relations, stakeholder involvement, procurement, IT, waste, energy, water, etc. The one that I'm going to tell you about today, which is thankfully more visible on the screen up there than it is here, is around the carbon management and the efforts that we've made in relation to that, as that is an area obviously lots of businesses are looking at. But there are many dimensions, and so this is very definitely only a subset that I'm telling you about here today. We are part of an initiative called the Airport Carbon Accreditation Programme. This is an initiative which is an airport-specific programme developed by airports for airports to try to commence a process of measurement of carbon footprint and move towards reduction over time and optimisation over time. It's a voluntary initiative endorsed at this stage both by the UN and the EU. And 52% of European airports at this stage are involved. We would have been, I think, within the first 11 or 12, and we would have been the second airport network which would actually have participated. The scheme has 4 levels. The first one is simply that you map your footprint. Obviously, you can't manage what you can't measure, so the first step is that we find out what exactly is the footprint we're talking about, and then we look at ways of reducing it, moving to optimisation, neutrality, in exactly the same kind of way that many other programmes for various industries would have developed. And the reason why we think that it's important for us to be involved in this is, first of all, it is a recognised, it is a certified, there's an independent validation process associated with this, it's internationally recognised, and it's one that we want to be involved in because it is seen, from our perspective as an airports business, as the best practice initiative. For us, very important that we look at improving performance in carbon reduction and energy management. And of course that is very, as has been said, that's a very sensible economic thing to do as a business that's focused on our bottom line. We want to reduce the level of our level of cost in terms of energy management and carbon management. And of course we're also very conscious that as we, as the airport group of airports who are involved, get together, we push the carbon issue higher up the agenda, and we make it clear that we are very anxious to participate and play our role as a responsible corporate citizen in this kind of development. And of course, obviously, by participating in a known programme, we're hopeful that people will recognise the contribution that we are making. In terms of what we have done so far, well, there are the 4 levels, and at this point in time, Dublin and Cork are at the reduction level, so we've moved from the mapping level and we're in a phase where we're actually reducing. Shannon initially was mapping, but actually we have submitted now our initiative to try to move Shannon up to the reduction phase. And in terms of the kind of progress we've made, we have delivered a reduction of about 3,500 tonnes at the 3 DAA airports over the 2009-10 period. And that takes about 1,100 cars or so off the road for a year. So in terms of our initiative and moving ahead in the right direction, we're very, very pleased with that. And that's something that we're trying to tell people, and not just tell people externally, because I suppose one of the issues for any company, and certainly a company that has many people in lots of diverse sites, we have 2,500 people within DAA, to try to tell those about the things that the company is doing is very important, because we want staff to be involved in this initiative and to be aware of the strides that we're making in this regard. So we certainly have a focus, and we produce a report, our carbon accreditation report every year. That's externally validated, and that's part of a process and is part of the initiative at European level. But of course, it's not only the only thing that we're doing to try to focus on our sustainability agenda. As well as the carbon accreditation programme, we are, and I think was mentioned earlier on, we are one of the groups who are involved in the Greenway, the clean tech cluster, and I know one of my colleagues will be speaking to you tomorrow afternoon about that. We're also about to enter a partnership with SEAI in terms of the working on our sustainable energy contribution, and we've also become active members of the Business in the Community initiative, which focuses a lot on the social and community side. So we take very seriously the challenge that businesses face today to try to move from a model which is the historic legacy model to one which is more focused on the sustainable issues, which are of interest not just to our customers, although that's obviously a very important point to us, but also to our staff and to the community who live around us. In terms of next steps, what are we going to focus on? Clearly for us in our business, energy strategy is a huge issue. So we're devoting a lot of energy to looking at our energy strategy and how should we be managing that and what sort of initiatives should we be taking. I suppose first step in that, we will shortly be getting 5 vans. You can see the kind of one that we'll have there. Driving sustainability is the logo along the side there, which we're very, very pleased with. And these will be used on the airport site. And of course, you can think that, you know, an airport campus, maybe like a university campus, is a very good place maybe to try these kind of vehicles out, because you're not travelling huge distances. It's going to be round and round the campus. So we're very hopeful and very excited at the prospect of having these vehicles on site. We're also into trying to influence others. We've started very actively and very in a very focused way within the company, looking at sustainable procurement and trying to encourage the people around the whole range of the business activities we're involved in to focus on sustainable procurement and ensuring that they think about sustainability whenever they're purchasing something, whatever it is that they're purchasing. And that's a long-term effect, because procurement is one of these areas like IT that is a key enabler throughout the organisation. We're looking at the formulation of future policies. You know, when we look forward to what will be done at the airport in the future, can we encourage the use of different kinds of more lower emission fuel on campus, etc. Not just vehicles that we're controlling ourselves, but the other players on campus. How can we encourage them? How can we influence them? Through our involvement with the Greenway, we are looking at the development of the clean tech sector, and that is obviously something that is very important to us, because if we are seen to be part of an area that is in a clean tech sector, that will make us more attractive as a location for other businesses. So this is something which definitely we're looking at in the context of having a bottom line benefit to ourselves. And so in combination then with the benefit which it has for our customers and for our staff, we certainly see this as being something which is a win-win scenario. So sustainability as a strategy for us is one which we think is firmly grounded in good economics, and that's why we're trying to take it forward. So I think that's well within time.